Kraven the Hunter is the new Marvel Sony movie that I've been waiting for a long time. I've been very hyped up to see this movie. It was supposed to come out last August, but then it got delayed more than a year to December, and we knew we had to wait more than a year to watch this, but it's finally out. And Kraven the Hunter is a lot of fun. It's so bad, it's good. And how lucky are we to be alive in 2024 when Sony and Marvel give us Madame Web, Venom, The Last Dance, and Kraven all in one year. It's like literally Christmas came early, and I mean that in a good way, and another way that's not necessarily bad. It was only over a week ago, dawning on Kraven's release, that Sony revealed they're going to stop making these terrible movies. They're going to focus on other prospects and their upcoming Spider-Noir TV show instead of pumping out this garbage cinematic universe, which I must say has been fun garbage to consume. Since the original Venom released in October of 2018, I've been with Sony, seeing their movies, giving them a chance. From Let There Be Carnage to Morbius. Each movie was more ridiculous than the last and really made no sense from a Hollywood studio or business standpoint. I mean, the goal of a good business and the film industry in general is to make money. And the fact that Sony Marvel has been making these movies, which are like the worst version of a formula for a movie that generally makes money, it just has kind of made you think, like, what the fuck? Why are these movies so bad? Is this actually something a studio would put together, thinking the general public wants to see it? And we've been saying the same thing for every single damn movie they've put out. They make no sense. They have complete plot holes and really obvious, emotionally void dialogue that's mostly replaced with ADR. I mean, Morbius and Madame Web are both some of the strangest and most ill-conceived blockbusters to ever be imagined and projected onto the massive IMAX screens for moviegoers to flock to. They just lack all sense of plot structure or steady editing or story or having the components of a great blockbuster movie in general. And Kraven follows this formula. It has none of those good things that movies should have. It's a movie about a Spider-Man villain and several other villains without Spider-Man, of course, all with interesting stories, I guess, that end up not actually being too interesting because of all their individual origin stories are ripped to shreds in service of serving the main extremely convoluted storyline, which tries to turn Kraven the Hunter, the Spider-Man comic book villain, into an anti-hero. And it could work in hindsight. Kraven is a cool dude in theory. He supports animal rights. He hunts down criminals who have betrayed justice. He has a partnership with Calypso, this psychic girl with medical potions who he knew as a kid. He has a younger brother he feels he must protect from his powerful father, a ruthless gangster played by Russell Crowe. They face enemies in business partners turned enemies such as Alessandra Nivola's Alexei Strahavski, the Spider-Man villain who later becomes the Rhino. Among all this, we get to see the origin stories of the Chameleon and the Foreigner. Partially at least, these are all comic book villains who are in the movie about a Spider-Man villain, not featuring him at all. It's cool to have, but at the end of the day, none of these cool elements really come into play or work because they're so poorly assembled into one cohesive story. The filmmakers clearly wanted to make a superhero movie or film resembling a superhero story with Kraven in the lead, and doing so and trying to fit in so many other characters, they butcher Kraven's origin story. It's one of those movies where it spends the whole time almost chasing its own tail. And I hate movies that do that, where they introduce all these different subplots and throw them all over the place instead of focusing on one cohesive route. Like, the main through line of this movie should be So Interesting, which follows Kraven, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, and his brother Dimitri, played by Fred Heckinger, as they try to avoid becoming like their father, Russell Crowe, who's this power-hungry gangster. The story could actually be like a really gritty gangster drama with superhero themes laid over. Think of something like Logan. This really could have been a dark crime drama, and the main plot is pretty interesting. Russell Crowe at the beginning picks up his two kids in a lengthy flashback where he explains that the boy's mother has died. He had her sent away to an institution because she was weak, and the main core theme of the movie becomes the boys trying to not be like their father, who wants them to take over his empire because he's such a brutish and terrifying man. And the elements at play here are fantastic, honestly, yet the way they're employed is horrible. I do want to give director J.C. Shandor some credit. He's made 6 movies, I've seen all of them, and they're all excellent. He's a talented director, and the way he lights and holds the shots in this movie really does show his talent. You can just tell with a script like this, there was nothing J.C. Shandor could do to save the movie, but it does at many parts look amazing, and I do love that he's not constantly cutting. The editing for what it is honestly pretty bad at points, but I love that he decides to hold a lot of the shots, keep them long, they look great. He's a talented director, and I want to make that point. And And I kept thinking this could be an amazing gangster drama with superhero themes. Again, like Logan. Not to mention, this is Sony and Marvel's first movie rated R. There is so much they can do with that, and yet they don't. I've been waiting for an R-rated Marvel movie too for so long to take advantage of that rating and actually give us a great gory scene. Not that you need to milk that, you need to use action and violence right. But between Logan and Deadpool and Wolverine, we've only gotten 2 of those movies, and Logan, we've never gotten a movie like that since. It would be amazing if Sony and Marvel decided, hey, let's make a grounded gangster drama and, have superhero themes in here, but we'll mostly keep it grounded. And it's just so odd to me that Kraven is the first Marvel Sony R-rated movie. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe there's another R-rated movie out there. Let me know if there's one I missed, but it's just such an odd choice, and even odder that they don't lean into the gangster drama theme. It has elements of Succession, where this father wants his kids to take over his empire, and he's this domineering and terrible father figure who's very powerful, but his kids are terrified of him. And the dialogue in Succession, for example, is honestly amazing. I think that's no secret. The dialogue is the secret sauce to that show, along with great acting. It has so much subtext and nuance, and it does such a great job making you feel like you should be scared or intimidated, or helps you understand the power play it works. And in Kraven, I'm not asking for Aaron Sorkin levels of dialogue or David Mamet. I'm just asking for something good. These Sony Marvel movies are bottom of the barrel, and for some reason they each have like 3 screenwriters attached, which is such a red flag. Like, how did it take 3 people to write Madam Web? And yet the movie still ends up having dialogue exchanges that are literally just characters shouting each other's names for a full minute. Again, I don't think Kraven needs to be Succession levels of dialogue, but all of Russell Crowe's lines are just so basic. Like, we get it, he's a toxic dad, he'll just go, be a man, or don't be weak, weakness is for enemies. And it's just so empty and small. This could have been a great drama. Think Logan. And even J.C. Chandor's other films, like A Most Violent Year, are great gangster dramas, but it just feels nothing like that, because it's so lost trying to turn Kraven into the superhero, and it doesn't work. Because Kraven isn't a hero, even the ending sucks. It should feel devastating and emotional. Both Kraven and his brother realize they're becoming like their father, which the whole movie they didn't want to happen. It should be this dark and tragic ending, but it just isn't. They set up the brother to be the chameleon from Marvel Comics, which isn't even an ending because it's setting up a sequel that's likely never going to come. And we get to see Kraven put on his comic-accurate vest, which, by the way, fuck you, Sony. Movies that introduce these comic-accurate suits at the very end are just so annoying. Like, it can be done right, as it was in Aquaman, where he spends the whole movie working to become the king, and then he dons the suit for the final battle. That kind of works, actually. But this film, it's just... it's an ending that says nothing. Kraven puts on a suit, his father left him, but why? He hated his father. Why would he accept his gift? And then the movie just ends. Like, it cuts to black. It's a non-ending that says nothing. It sets up a sequel that most likely is never going to come. And even if it does, the way it sets up just makes no sense. Logan is real and grounded and includes several fantastic elements that fit in the context. Like, the kids in that movie have superpowers and are being hunted by this rogue government agency to try and find them and experiment on them. That feels real. It's a gripping, gritty action flick with a superhero through line, but military overtones and this really grounded narrative. Movies like that work because they're not trying to be so flashy and super heroic. They are doing something different. And it works because you can accept that one fantastical element, like people having powers in a time when powers are extinct or not as common. This movie asks you to accept so many different fantastical elements, and chances are, if a movie asks you to believe so many different things, you're going to have a hard time taking them seriously. You'll start looking at your phone because you're going to get bored. Like, for example, if the movie had just stuck with these characters having advanced abilities, Kraven has the power of a lion because a lion bled on him as a kid. The rhino has the powers of a rhino because similarly he had a surgical alteration to give himself rhino skin. That might work if that was it. Instead, the movie asks you to accept so many different things, and it's just laughable. Kraven's brother talks like different people. He can change his voice, and then he becomes the chameleon because he has an off-screen medical operation they don't even show us, which is at the end, but still. There's this whole other character played by the Foreigner, played by Christopher Abbott, another Spider-Man villain, which actually could work as a kind of assassin hitman character, but he just comes out of nowhere and has the ability to stop time, and it just feels so different from everything that's been established. You have this character played by Ariana DeBose, which might be the worst part of the movie. And before I say this, I want to say I really do think Ariana DeBose is a great actress who's proven she has talent in past films. I loved her in West Side Story. She has an amazing voice as well. But she really gets to use none of those things here. And it might not even be the casting choice, but just the character that was written for her, in which she ends up totally embarrassing herself. Basically, she's this superpowered archer who's also a lawyer, who's also a psychic, who has these cards that predict the future, and she can create magical healing potions which she can use to raise the dead. And if all of that sounds extremely complicated and like it wouldn't fit into the story, yeah, it doesn't. She's basically there to be a love interest to Kraven, and the way their paths cross make no sense. He's a kid in Africa on a hunting trip when they first meet, and she saves his life. And then they don't reunite till like over a decade later, where all of a sudden she's hanging out with him and helping him, even though he's some lone wolf hunter who works by himself. And I mean, they can easily make this work, but the way he goes about finding her, trying to find her because she has these healing abilities and because she's a lawyer and she can help put away these bad guys, it just feels so forced. Like, yeah, he knew her because she saved him as a kid, but it's not like they've been friends since, or he's tried to find her, or they have this connection. It's like, why does he really care about this girl? There's nothing inherently believable about this. It's not like they had a relationship as a kid, or he was in love with her, or you buy their romance. Everything just happens to serve the function of the plot. There's no added emotion or connection that would help a character like this feel grounded. She's literally just there to serve as a plot device so Kraven can have a love interest. Even though they don't kiss or anything, they really have no chemistry. And so she can show up last minute and kill the foreigner and help save Kraven. I mean, there's really nothing here beyond advancing the story, and it's such a waste. I did like the stuff with Kraven's brother Dimitri. I think that is the actual emotional through line of the movie at parts, because the last two acts result in him being kidnapped in this convoluted kidnapping scheme, which was revealed to be a power play by Kraven's father. This all could have been done so much better, but they stretch this out until it feels highly believable. He's literally just like, I had your brother kidnapped, so you save him and kill our enemies. It's so drawn out and requires so much suspense and disbelief. You would believe it's a grand plan if the movie wasn't so basic and lacking character depth. Then the movie culminates in Kraven trying to rescue his brother from the Rhino, which is this movie's big final boss battle, and it's just ridiculous. I do like Alessandro Nivola here as the Rhino. He plays the role really well. He's weird and quirky and feels like this, insecure kind of dude who uses these rhino powers to make himself feel stronger. I actually bought that and I liked that. But his character is so empty in other ways and lacking. When he actually becomes the Rhino, there's nothing cool or unique to it. It's not like the Hulk transforming in the 2003 or 2008 movie where you spent the whole movie with the character and now you know why this is happening or what his purpose is. The Rhino is just some henchman of Kraven's dad who gets insulted by him, so he runs off to start his own empire, which we don't even see. So, it doesn't matter. He does this all off screen. It's not like they spend a lot of time with him, too. He's just some powerful gangster who can take the serum that makes him the Rhino. He fights Kraven at the end. But because we have not really seen a lot of power play between the two, it just feels kind of empty and dumb. If instead of trying to force in the foreigner and the Ariana DeBose character or all of the Russell Crowe stuff, if they had just kept the action strictly limited to the Rhino, it would work wonderfully. Maybe not wonderfully, but it would at least be more functional. Or Russell Crowe still could have been the main villain and the Rhino could be his powerful henchman. I think that would work far better than cramming in all these other characters and at establishing a story structure where you want to root against these guys, as opposed to having Kraven having all these random superpowered enemies, where the plot just goes nowhere. It's just a really frustrating and silly movie, and the fact that I'm saying this is silly is embarrassing. This is the first R-rated Marvel Sony movie. At least make it feel grounded and dark. You have J.C. Shandor directing, who made Margin Call, Triple Frontier, All Is Lost, A Most Violent Year. Venom, for example, was made by the guy who did Uncharted, and the director of Madam Web hadn't even done a real movie, and it shows. But here you have a lot of talent behind and in front of the camera, but because of this cobbled together script, nothing really works. And honestly, this should have been Logan levels of great. If you really had screenwriters and a director the director here really seems like he's a great choice, but I feel like if they really tried to make a grounded gangster drama, that's the Kraven I want to see. I think there's a version of this movie that would be great. Also, they had When the Man comes around in the trailer, and I think that inherently made me think of Logan because that plays in Logan at the end, and I just really wish there's an alternate universe where this movie was Logan, and that would be amazing. If you're gonna make these movies about these random Spider-Man characters, at least make them great. But this movie is far from great. And I mean, that's what the Sony cinematic universe is, or whatever it's called. And I won't lie, I will miss the SMU, or the Sony Marvel universe, the SSU, Sony Spider-Man universe, whatever you call it. It's so bad and even more weird when they recently revealed, oh, we could have used Spider-Man this whole time. Like, what? They just make these spin-offs no one asked for, and they go about these films in the least interesting way. At least if you're going to make a movie about Spider-Man villains, make them feel like their own movies with their own identities. Don't make them shit. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think. This might be my last review for the year. There might be a surprise review, but let me know what you guys think. Thanks so much for watching, and make sure to subscribe.